Hello and a very warm welcome to Seoul for round 16 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. After Saturday's thrilling race, the title fight is going down to the final day, and this qualifying session will have huge consequences in deciding a champion. Mercedes EQ's Stoffel Vandoorne still leads the way at the top of the championship, but after a heroic victory amongst the chaos yesterday, Jaguar TCS Racing's Mitch Evans has managed to put the pressure on the Belgian. Today, we crown our champion at the Seoul E-Prix.
And we go green in Seoul. Eduardo Mortara wins.
Woohoo! Guys, good job.
And Byrne hits the back of Da Costa. It's a double win for Mitch Evans. Stoffel Vandoorne moves to the lead of the championship. This is the one. Stoffel Vandoorne, he is in a very strong place. Evans wins the Seoul E-Prix.
Come on! Yeah.
Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are watching around the globe, this is the final day. It's the last race of the season, Season 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. Now, yesterday was absolutely epic. Mitch Evans in the Jaguar car did exactly what we wanted him to do. He has taken this season to the very last race. Dario Franchitti, Nicky Shields, we've got smiles on our faces because this is what sport is all about. Unadulterated fun with very fast cars and very talented people steering them along a very tight circuit in one of the best venues we've ever visited. I could talk forever, but we've got two people here who need to speak because they're contractually obliged to do so. Dario, it's awesome.
Fantastic, and thank you, Mitch Evans, for keeping the championship going into the last round into today. Nothing against Stoffel Vandoorne, they both would equally deserve that championship, but the battle has come down to this, hasn't it? And qualifying is going to be so key because there's 3 points up for grabs for being on pole position. That could be absolutely key to Mitch Evans today. Starting up front as well, because Mitch Evans, he's got to win the race today. Stoffel Vandoorne, he's got a lot more leeway, but Mitch has got to get it done.
Yeah, Nicky, it was phenomenal yesterday, wasn't it?
It really was a fantastic race. Mitch did exactly what he needed to do. But even if he repeats that performance today, you know, finishing on the top step of the podium, that's still not enough. All Stoffel Vandoorne has to do is finish 7th or higher if neither of them get pole position.
Easier said than done, though.
Well, true. Although, you know, I know we should never look back, but if you look at Stoffel Vandoorne, he is undoubtedly the most consistent driver we've ever seen in Formula E. In the 8 years of Formula E's history, he's the only driver to have consistently won scored points in every one of the races apart from one, and even on that one he finished 11th. So he really is phenomenal. This is his 3rd season. He's done first season with HWA Labs, 2 seasons with Mercedes EQ. This is his last drive for the team because of course Mercedes EQ is ending their time here in Formula E. So there is so much at stake, so much to play for, but I think he's in a pretty good place.
Yeah, he really is. Dario, yesterday the weather had a big say in qualifying and then the race. Today though, it's sweltering hot, and it doesn't look like it's going to rain, but you never know.
You never know, and it might rain just on the trailing edge of the race this afternoon, which would really throw the cat amongst the pigeons, wouldn't it? So, yeah, it's going to be exciting anyway. The weather gets involved. Well, just look out.
All right, well, let's head down to yesterday's race winner, the one and only Mitch Evans. He's with the very handsome Jack Nicholls. Look at this guy.
Thank you, Vernon. Well, 24 hours ago, I was standing right here at the Jaguar garage with this man, Mitch Evans, and you were a bit glum 24 hours ago. Feeling a bit different today?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, when I spoke to you, practice didn't go so well. It just started to rain, which I was kind of hoping for after the practice sessions we had, and obviously had a good result in the race to bring the title fight till today. Obviously, it's dry at the moment. First practice today was actually a lot better than yesterday. We think we made some gains, but obviously qualifying is when we're going to prove that. So I'm feeling good. I'm just excited to be in this position, putting the pressure on, and I've got nothing to lose. I've secured 2nd in the championship, and we've still got a chance to win this championship. So I just want to leave it all out there and see what we can get out of today.
Was yesterday one of your best drives? It seemed to us like, because he was like, oh, maybe he's on a wet setup, maybe he'll struggle when it dries up, but you were just gone with more energy than everyone else. Looked easy.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy. Just the fact that, like, you know, these cars are difficult to drive at the best of times. And then drying conditions, you know, you had like the stadium section, it was super slippery with the new tarmac. The road section here was drying up really quick. So to obviously be like the guinea pig and be ahead of everyone to try and manage that was really tough. But got it done. It was just a really important victory. So I'm very proud of. We came here to try and execute that, and we accomplished that. Formally, victories are very hard to come by. So to come here with that mindset and execute was really was amazing. So we have to do the same today. I think I've done it before in a doubleheader, but to do it twice would be a miracle. So I need some luck today. I know that, but I'll give my best shot and see where we end up.
Awesome. Best luck.
Thank you.
So perhaps not needing quite as much luck, but still just as much skill is Stoffel Vandoorne, current championship leader, with a 21-point gap. Now, I had a quick chat with Ian James, the team principal here, and he was basically saying that yesterday the team, they just made a few small mistakes. They didn't quite have it together as they normally would. However, coming in today, they have a spring in their step, so I think things are looking really positive for the team. Also interesting to note, before qualifying, all 4 Mercedes cars are in Group A. So that's the 2 from Mercedes EQ and the 2 from Venturi. Now, what we saw yesterday is that Jaguar TCS Racing, Norman Nato almost pushed Mitch Evans out of the duels. We do not want to see that happening today with Stoffel Vandoorne, because the key to success for Stoffel Vandoorne claiming that championship title is making sure he gets into those duels and gets a good qualifying position. So only time will tell before qualifying gets underway soon.
All right, Dario, you're an advisor for Ganassi, right? If you were an advisor for Mercedes and Jaguar, what would you be saying to your drivers?
So, I think if you're Jaguar, you clearly know the goals. You as a team, you've got to, not just the driver, you're not just talking to Mitch, you've got to get the engineers in line too. I think yesterday they made some very good choices. Mercedes, on the other hand, made almost a fatal error in qualifying. They brought Stoffel in when everybody else was out there going quicker, and that nearly caught them out. If you're Stoffel, the conversation goes something like, Stoffel, you know what got you here. Just do that. Just drive as you've been driving all season long. Don't do anything different. And he's in such a good place that he'll just go out and execute and be very calculated in what he does. With Mitch, I think, again, it's more of a Hail Mary. It's just go, and he did that to perfection yesterday. So this qualifying session right now, those 3 points on offer, starting up front as well, the clear track ahead that affords, this is so key. These next laps, and it's not one lap, because it's group qualifying, getting through that, and then it's getting through the duels as well, and getting through into the final. Multiple laps. It's going to be so interesting to see.
It really is. I'm so excited. And also, this is Mercedes' last outing, so they're going to want to leave with a big smile on everyone's faces, aren't they? Right, this is it. The last qualifying of the season. Come on.
Push, 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 push to the limit now. Push, 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 push to the limit now. Push to the limit now. Push to the limit now. Stop.
The final session of Season 8 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, the final qualifying, the final Julius Baer Pole Position up for grabs, and these are the drivers that will be out in the first group of qualifying. Both Mercedes and both Rocket Venturis and both Envisions and both Mahindra as well. Rather appropriately, I suppose, given the weather earlier on this week, we've got a Noah's Ark grouping of drivers and teams heading out in this session, which is going to be very interesting. And as ever, the focus is going to be on Stoffel Vandoorne in this session. He's the only one who's in title contention in this group. So all the focus will be on whether he can make it through. You see the Lotte Tower there over on the right-hand side, the pit lane down here just next to Olympic Way. And there is Stoffel Vandoorne, the man with the most appearances in the duels this year, 12. Andre Lotterer has the second most with 10. And that is where so much of Vandoorne's point scoring has come from. His speed in the duels in order to make it through into the top 8. A good starting position, good haul of points, and that's how he's built his championship, really. Norman Nato getting ready to head out in the Jaguar, Lucas de Grassi departing too. But yeah, it's an interesting scenario with all 4 Mercedes EQ powertrains, Dario, in this group.
Yeah, absolutely right, Jack. And it looks like we're going to have a full dry qualifying session, so that'll take some of the unknowns out of it today. I think we're going to see who's got the pure pace to start up front this afternoon. And they're doing a lap in the first 6 minutes of qualifying, the first half, and then having to do a lap in the second. We'll see some track evolution, so I would expect everybody's the laps in the second 6 minutes to be the quicker. But it's going to be fractions of a second, isn't it?
And all of these group qualifying laps will be done at 220 kilowatts of power. So, and broadly speaking, we tend to see either an out lap, then a prep lap, then a fast lap, or an out lap, then a fast lap. It's usually the former. Van Dorn leaves the pit lane now with 11 minutes to go. These first laps in the first 6 minutes, less crucial, but it can, I presume, it almost feels a bit more crucial mentally more than anything else, because if you don't get a good lap in, the pressure's on for the second run.
Yeah, I think the pressure is on, but it gets you in a rhythm almost, I think, with the track. Gets you in a rhythm with the car. You know, Mitch Evans, when he goes out in Group 2, they've changed the brakes, I think, on the Jaguar. There's all kinds of lockups this morning, so he's going to want to feel that out. They
changed them before practice and then have reverted because they didn't really love how it went in practice. Yeah.
I mean, the pace was okay, right? He was fourth quickest, sorry. The pace was okay, but he wasn't happy with that feel. And so when he really starts pushing in qualifying, that could have caught him out. So and he knows he was completely comfortable with the brakes yesterday. What was happening is there was a temperature split left to right. These brake discs, these carbon brakes, work in a defined temperature area. Well, the right-hand side brake disc was fine. The left was not fine, and it was grabbing, and that was causing him to lock up into turn 22 every time he tried to push it. We see Lucas Di Grassi and the Rocket Venturi coming through turned 11, 12 into 13 now.
And Sete Camera just ahead of him in the Dragon. Cassidy has done a faster first sector than Turvey, Sete Camera, Nato and Di Grassi, but Freitz goes fractionally quicker still.
Oh, listen to that Dragon Penske just hammering the ground through turn 18.
It looks so quick on that lock-off camera on the exit. I love it.
Is that a lock-off camera?
Yeah, I guess so. A wall cam. Let's call it wall cam. Maybe that's a more appropriate terminology for it.
You see Di Grassi bouncing across the bumps, the surface changes into turn 20, 21.
Down into the final corner at turn 22 for Lucas Di Grassi.
We've definitely seen an upturn in form with Di Grassi's qualifying of late in the Rocket Venturi.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been rapid in New York, London, and here. Nick Cassidy through the final corner in the Envision, and he is going to go quicker, I think, here, or 1 minute 22.351. Freitz coming through. Here comes Eduardo Mortara out across the line, and Freitz goes into second place. Mortara goes into second place now, ahead of Freitz, so splits the two Envisions.
And again, you've got to be in the top 4 at the end of the session to get into the duels. I love that corner.
Van Dorn into 19, now down into turn 20. I love this shot where it's just like traffic on the right, and Van Dorn's like, nope.
It shows the speed.
Yeah, it really does.
When you've got nothing to really differentiate, to give you any kind of anything to show how quick they're going, and you see this traffic all parked. It's quite impressive.
Final corner for Van Dorn.
He's done a good lap, isn't he?
He is indeed. It's a 1 minute 22.165 for Van Dorn, which is almost 2/10 quicker than Cassidy and 3/10 quicker than his teammate Nick De Vries, who goes into 4th place. Oliver Rowland, 1.3 seconds off the pace there, so maybe a mistake, I think, in the,
middle sector.
Yeah, but then the final sector wasn't quick either, so maybe a couple of mistakes in there for Rowland.
Yeah, yesterday's pole sitter.
Yeah.
Oliver Rowland, a mighty performance. Through turn 18 yesterday in his semi-final.
Good job, mate. Main loss is loop 7, so that's the end of the lap, exit of turn 20. So currently you're quickest, Cassidy.
That's Stephen Lane giving Van Dorn his feedback.
Good information there. Yeah, Rowland yesterday got on the rack stops in turn 18, both directions in the wet, managed to hold on to it, and I think he was as surprised as we were at the car. Kept going, basically.
Jerome D'Ambrosio and Delphine Biscay. Delphine actually pointed something out yesterday. Di Grassi at the moment in 6th place, but Delphine said you didn't get a reconnaissance lap yesterday as well, because of the way that the track is and where the grid is. you only did the first half of the lap. Normally you do the full lap, go through the pits, and then you get to the... Whereas this was only half the lap, and then you go around to so that final corner at turn 20, where everybody ended up in the barriers, her point was it was basically the first time anyone had been there full stop.
Yeah, a very good point. Norman Nato subbing for Sam Bird this weekend, the number 10 Jaguar.
Through the chicane and into the stadium. Van Dorn quickest at the moment. And Van Dorn's been quick in so many of the group qualifying segments. Maybe hasn't been able to deliver quite as much as he would have wanted in the duels over the course of the season, but the amount of times he's been through as the quickest driver in the group section is remarkable. As we go on board driver's eye with Degrassi, 2/10 down at the moment on this lap.
This is through turn 21 now, onto the longest straight of the lap. Was that a little...
Yeah, it sounded like a little bump, didn't it?
Yeah, it looked like a little... They used the wall to arrest the slide. Heavy braking into 22 now. Up on the curb a little bit. Wall comes back to meet you. Degrassi goes 5th. Gotta get it done.
Whee, and then goes in deep into turn 1. I think he kept it out the wall. Cassidy into the final corner and across the line. And he is remaining in 2nd place, half a second slower. Freintz jumps up into 5th place, so Degrassi now down into 6th position. Eduardo Mortara, we're on board with here now, is in 2nd spot. Here's a replay of Cassidy coming out of the stadium. Oh, that's quite a chunky hit.
Yeah, that wasn't even close, and he's hit the suspension, not just the bodywork there. So, wonder if that's damaged the suspension, bent the wishbones or the steering arms. If it has, that's the session over.
Less than 5 minutes to go. Pascal Wehrlein getting ready to head out in qualifying Group B in a few moments' time. But Van Dorn and De Vries and Roland are all back in the pits. Everybody else is still out there lapping. They don't appear to be on push laps at the moment, as Sacha Fenestraz is going. He's even got Giovinazzi's suit on. I hadn't realised that. He's filling in for Antonio Giovinazzi.
Well, they couldn't make him one overnight.
No, I know, but it's quite interesting. No damage to Nick Cassidy's car, by the way, after that wall hit. But here we go, a bit of stretching for Fenestraz. We'll chat more about him in the second group qualifying. Sergio City Camera at the moment 7th quickest as they return to the pits with 4 minutes to go.
And if you are Stoffel Van Dorn,
which I'm not,
you know how to do it. You know how to do the job. You've just got to let your brain do what it does. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't overthink it, because when you start doing that, that's when you start making mistakes. And that's part of, I mean, any sport, isn't it? Any elite sport is so much about the mental aspect of it. And he's done a really good job of doing that all season long, just doing exactly what he needs.
Had a championship come down to the wire in Formula Renault Euro Cup, did Stoffel Van Dorn, because when he did GP2, he kind of destroyed the field, but I think he said 2012, or was it 13, it came down to the wire with Pierre Gasly, and he managed to win the championship. Oh, Daniel Kvyat, sorry. It was the final race weekend in Barcelona, came down to the wire, and Van Dorn beat Kvyat by 10 points. Sergio City Camera's had his first lap times cancelled, lap times 1 and 2 for overpower.
Does that affect him for not doing a lap time in the first half of the session?
No, because he's got 4 laps on the board, so I presume his 3rd lap time would still count, but we'll wait and see. Tyre changes going on at Envision for Robin Freintz, who apparently did a great move overtake on Da Costa yesterday, he was telling me, for, I don't know, 10th or 11th position or something, and he said it was a great overtake. And I said, well, we didn't see it, and he said, oh, it was great. And I said, well, fight for the places higher up, and then we'll put it on telly.
Harsh.
True, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this man was fighting for the places further up yesterday. Oliver Rowland and the Mahindra did a great job, didn't he? Finished in 2nd, their best finish of the season as a team.
First podium of the season for Mahindra.
Yeah, but all eyes rightly on the championship battle.
So Van Dorn, he's got a nice buffer here, you know, already going out in this with 0.3 of a second back to Robin Freintz. It would take a big jump from a lot of people for Van Dorn to slip out of qualifying Group A here.
Yeah, because Robin Freintz, Lucas de Grassi, Oliver Rowland, they're not known for the qualifying prowess.
It's very true. It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Yeah, you know as well as I do. When track evolution thrown in as well, because obviously it rained overnight, and the rubber.
Did it?
Well, it rained in the second part of the race, shall we say? In the
oh, right. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
And so the track is rubber is going down all the time, and the tyres adhere better to rubber, goes faster. So yeah. I'll be very surprised if the qualifying order remains the same at the end of the session as it is right now.
Van Dorn 3,000ths ahead of Eduardo Mortara. Cassidy third, De Vries fourth. Freintz missing out at the moment with De Grassi, Sette Camera, Nato, Turvey, Sims and Roland. And actually De Grassi, as we mentioned, is on such a good form. He would have made it through to the duels in the last 5 races, which would be the best qualifying sort of duel performance of anyone over the last 5 races. Now he didn't, because in 2 of those races his lap time got cancelled for sort of technical infringements basically, but he's had the pace to get through every time.
Administrative more than
administrative, that's the word.
Yeah, it wasn't like he had extra power
no.
than everybody else, but he's simply warming up the tyres, getting ready to go. Sette Camera leading the charge in the Dragon Penske. He will be definitely worth the price of admission here because he flirts with the edge, maybe more than anybody in the field.
Here comes the Mercedes EQ of Stoffel Vandoorne, the championship leader. If he takes pole position today, he puts himself in a very, very strong spot to win the championship. If he takes pole, he just needs to finish in the top 8 to win the title. Into the chicane.
And if he takes pole as well, it takes away the Mitch Evans' ability to finish second with pole position and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so it's very, very important laps for him. And Mitch Evans looking good through the stadium section, keeping the momentum up, just playing with the throttle, not touching the brakes. Quickest of anybody, 2/10 up on the previous best through that first sector.
Yeah, that's a really big first sector. It's quicker than De Vries, it's quicker than De Grassi, it's quicker than Sette Camera, it's quicker than Turvey.
And you hear the tyres slide as he goes onto this surface of the city streets, a bit less grip there.
The closest in the first sector is Robin Freintz. He's the closest driver to Stoffel Vandoorne's first sector split.
Lovely through turn 19 as well for Stoffel Vandoorne. This is a really, really nice lap for him, and this will put pressure on Mitch Evans.
Down towards the final corner at turn 22. His middle sector's a little slower than Sette Camera, but Sette Camera now goes to the top, a 121.989. Vandoorne should go quicker than that. Mortara's done a very good middle sector. Vandoorne does go quicker, so he goes to the top of the times, takes the checkered flag. There goes De Vries, he goes into third spot. Then it is the De Grassi car, he goes into second place. The Neo comes through of Oliver Turvey and goes into 7th.
Tyres, stand by.
Cassidy goes 6th. Mortara goes quicker than Vandoorne, so Sette Camera's on the bubble. Roland down in 7th. Freintz goes up into 3rd, so Sette Camera is pushed out. And that is the last of the runners. So Sims return to the pit lane. So Mercedes make it through with Stoffel Vandoorne into the duels. De Vries is out. Both Rocket Venturis are through as well.
And that's big news for the Teams Championship, because Rocket Venturi challenging Mercedes. Both cars starting closer to the front, getting into the duels. No wonder they're smiling.
The trophy from yesterday on the back of the garage there from Lucas de Grassi's 3rd place finish, and they'll be looking for a similar podium position today. They said that an Eduardo Mortara quicker than Vandoorne by 0.04 of a second.
And you can hear him cleaning off the tyres there, using more lock than normal just to make sure the tyres are clean if he has to use them during the groups, the dual stages of qualifying.
So Mortara returning to the pit lane.
Didn't have a great race yesterday. Made some interesting choices. Again, easy to say from the comms booth. Made some interesting choices. I think ultimately got a puncture because of that. In contact with Jean-Eric Vernon. But making up for it this morning.
So qualifying group A is done. Mortara, Vandoorne, Freintz, De Grassi are the top 4. Sette Camera in 5th position. De Vries in 6th. Cassidy 7th row of the grid. 8th row of the grid for Nato, Roland, Turvey and Sims, the rest of the runners. So qualifying Group B will be getting underway in a few moments' time. And who will be joining? Well, will Evans be joining? That's the big question, isn't it? And he was reasonable pace-wise this morning. Strong in the wet yesterday to start 3rd on the grid. And we'll see what Evans can do in the Jaguar. You see them just, the cars at the bottom heading into the FIA technical area to get weighed and get checked and then head back down to the garages. And It is a good start for Stoffel Vandoorne, but we'll see what happens with Mitch Evans in a moment. Let's go down to Nikki Shields.
Ian James, you don't need reminding. This is a very big weekend for you guys. Stoffel Vandoorne obviously through to the duels, which is fantastic. Nick de Vries not through, which is obviously going to hinder your chance at the team's championship.
I mean, it was always going to be tough. We knew we had all four of the Mercedes-powered cars in that group, so it was going to be a hell of a tough fight, and it proved to be that way. It looked like Nick had a bit of a slow sector 3 just on that final lap, which meant that he wasn't in contention for getting through to the duels. But we got Stoff up there, so no, on balance, I think it's still all there.
We haven't had the chance to speak to Stoffel this morning, unusually. How's he feeling?
Good, really good. I think you can see there's an energy in the team today, and I think we're up for the fight. And Stoffel, that consistency that he's had, that confidence all year, it's there again today, and that's going to be so key.
That's what we like to hear. Thanks very much. Good luck for the rest of the quali.
So Ian James, the team principal of Mercedes EQ, after a strong performance from Stoffel Vandoorne. De Vries not quite making it through just yet, but it was still a strong performance from the Mercedes EQ squad, and they are in that championship fight as well, aren't they, with Rocket Venturi, as Dario mentioned a few moments ago. And we are about to get going with qualifying Group B, and Mitch Evans will be out in that session with Jean-Eric Verne, Antonio Felix da Costa, Jake Dennis, Verline, Lotterer, Buemi, Askew, Gunter, Ticktum and Fenestraz. Mitch Evans getting ready to head out onto the circuit. And
look at his eyes, that 1,000-yard stare. He's probably just thinking about his lap. Some drivers close their eyes when they're doing that, just sort of play the lap in their mind, what they felt this morning in last practice.
Did you?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I could still play laps from circuits I drove 20 years ago in my head. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night, but yeah.
What did you have for dinner? Oh, you had a pizza?
Pizza, yeah.
And a pepperoni pizza?
I literally...
Body's a temple, I thought.
I can play those laps to every bump.
Really?
It's bizarre. It's probably, yeah, one of the many useless gifts I have. I don't have many good ones.
How often do you do it? If you're like bored on a plane, do you go, oh, let me look at Surfer's Paradise again?
Occasionally.
Really?
If something reminds me of it, yeah. Some of the social media, somebody says, oh yeah, 25 years ago you did this. Oh. Play the lap.
Have a little, wow, yeah. That's amazing.
It's not particularly helpful to anything in life.
But it's well, no, I would suggest race car driving.
Well, back in the day it was, yeah. But the fact to be able to do it 20-odd years later is a little odd.
That's amazing. Yeah. Let's focus on the future of motorsport,
Let's
the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, and that is Roger Griffiths, the team principal at Andretti, and Oliver Askew is the first driver across the line. We'll see whether they're doing push laps or prep laps. Looks fairly pushy from Askew, and similarly so, I think, from Lotterer as he comes down towards turn 4.
Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
He's cracking on.
Yeah, Andre Lotterer, both Askew and Lotterer taken out in that accident. The first lap yesterday afternoon, turn 20. Love this stadium section as well. He's just trying to find the limit, trying to just run as much speed as possible through the Lotterer. Decent first sector.
28.2 for Andre Lotterer. He's under investigation for a pit lane procedure infringement. Andre Lotterer.
Sounds ominous.
Yeah, quite a lot of technical issues administrative issues for Porsche over the course of the season and over the last few years, to be perfectly honest, as Lotterer now comes down into the right-hander of 19.
Interesting, he was feathering the throttle through 18. Edo Mortara absolutely pinned through there, didn't even think about lifting.
Old Mr. Dennis is 3/10 quicker than Lotterer in the first sector. We're on board with Lotterer now coming back down into turn 22. Buemi's middle sector is quicker than Lotterer's also. So this isn't actually a great lap for Lotterer.
No, old Mr. Dennis in the Avalanche Andretti car has really found a rich seam of form recently. His teammate Askew goes quickest.
Lotterer slots into second place. Here comes Sebastian Buemi out across the line. And is he going to go quicker than the pair of them? He does, a 22.299. The tyres chirping as he comes into the right-hander. We're on board now with Jake Dennis, who is 4/10 up on Buemi after the middle sector.
Much like Mortara, he uses absolutely every inch of the road. Mortara hit the wall at least twice on his fast lap in group qualifying. Dennis, P1 by half a second, nearly 6/10.
Wow, that's a quick lap from Jake Dennis. Here's Pascal Wehrlein, who had a strong race yesterday, but that 21.7 for Jake Dennis pretty much matches, is quicker than Eduardo Mortara's time in that first qualifying group. He hit the wall at turn 4 as well.
Absolutely, and here's Wehrlein up to P2. He's only 4/10 away. Jean-Eric Vergne, double Formula E World Champion.
Was in contention coming into this weekend, but hasn't had a rich run of form. He had scored points in every race so far this season and then didn't score points for 4 in a row. Here comes Da Costa, his DS Techeetah teammate. And Da Costa goes into 4th place, so slightly behind Vergne. Everybody is 4/10 away from Jake Dennis. Evans is
no, slow,
but I think he's on a prep lap. I think Evans.
Yeah, I think he made a
mistake because his first sector was about 2 seconds off.
Right, let's watch on board Mitch Evans. This is important. See how the car's handling. Looks good through there so far. Watch how it brakes. They've changed the brakes as we talked about. Going back to yesterday's brakes, they weren't happy with the new set of brakes in practice this morning. Good so far. Watch the surface changes. He goes into the stadium now. So close to the apex wall in turn 7.
First sector split for Evans. He's a 10th down on Dennis, so not too bad.
Watch the corner tighten up as he comes into turn 13. Got to be flat through there. I didn't even think about lifting through 15. This is where it starts to get wide again out of the surface. Gets more bumpy, loses a bit of grip. Over the bumps through 17, 18 should be flat. Yeah. Coming up to his next split now. He's
half a second
off, yeah.
Half a second away from Jake Dennis.
Again, he's just got to be in the top 4, but it's easier said than done.
And it didn't look particularly offensive.
No, it looked okay. It shows how good it was, Jake Dennis. But remember, Wehrlein's 4/10 behind in P2.
Yeah, but this might not even be top 5 for Evans. It isn't. It's 6th. 6/10 away from Jake Dennis.
And look, 5 minutes and 50 seconds to go. You can't go back to the drawing board. Going to make some quick changes, tire pressures, maybe some changes to the powertrain settings, and the driver's going to make some changes too.
Tough lap that for Mitch Evans. 5.5 minutes to go. He's going to be the Dennis, Wehrlein, Vergne and Da Costa are all back in the pits. The other drivers out on the circuit at the moment as Ticktum comes down in the Nissan into turn 22. Neo, sorry, yeah. But he's up behind the Nissan of Max Günther, so...
I know what you mean.
Honestly, I never know what's going to come out of my mouth. And I don't know if it, and I don't listen to what I say, so I don't know if it actually has any relevance to what I said in my brain. Evans struggling with the rear tyres, he was saying, and we did see him slide a couple of times.
Yeah, we did. So one of the tyre pressure changes will change the set of tyres themselves. The question is, do they can change the powertrain settings, as I say, to give the car some more braking, some more rear traction on the well, it's corner entry or corner exit when he goes back to the throttle.
So Evans returning to the pit lane now. Through the little right and then the tight right-hander and down to the Jaguar garage, which is towards the other end of the pit lane. Baseball stadium on the left-hand side. Evans ain't looking at that though. He's focused on getting into the duels, because at the moment he is out in 6th position. Both the Techeetahs in there, Wehrlein and Dennis, the 4 men that would advance at the moment. Sasha Fenestraz, to cover off that story, is replacing Antonio Giovinazzi for this race, because Giovinazzi struggling with tendinitis. So Fenestraz has come in, and he is a young French racing driver, a 23-year-old who is Jaguar's reserve driver, actually, and Jaguar have released him to race for Dragon this weekend. He was the first driver to drive Jaguar's Gen 3 car, Fenestraz. But he hasn't driven the Gen 2 car since the rookie test in Marrakesh. But he's been on the sim a bit this year.
Because I hear he's going somewhere else for for the new Gen 3 car with another team, so he's got information from inside Jaguar. Stephen Lane, Stoffel van Dorn. Stephen Lane's engineer, and you can see that intensity in his stare, just talking to his driver, get every bit of detail he can, try and improve things for the duels coming up.
So big pressure here on Evans. He's got to get into these duels if he wants to keep the championship alive, because he's basically got to finish first or second, whatever happens. He's got to finish first or second, and if he's not into the duels, it's going to be tough.
You see the screens on the wall in the Jaguar garage, that's what he's looking at. He's probably looking at the timing screens, seeing the split times where he's losing time. You see Stoffel van Dorn on the inset there, just whatever happens, whatever Mitch Evans does, he can't control it, so he's just working on his car for the duels now.
Fairly matey, those two, Evans and Van Dorn. Were on the podium 10 times together in GP2 over the course of 2 seasons. Of course, neither could stop Jolyon Palmer in 2014, but in 2015, Stoffel van Dorn won the title at a canter, really. Evans won a few races towards the end of that year as well, so they get along very well. And even I did an interview with them for yesterday's show, and just while we were getting ready, and and I was chatting with the cameraman or something, I came back and they were fully looking at each other's phones. I think they were buying something. I don't know what was going on, but they were
hopefully a car.
I don't know, but they were fully involved in each other was doing. They get along very well.
You can have championship fights. I had Scott Dixon on a couple of occasions. One of my best friends, and we were, we became good friends through actually fighting for the championship together. But then there's other situations where with drivers how do I put it politely, you don't get on with quite so well.
Yeah. Is it nicer to beat the drivers you don't get on well with, or it doesn't make any difference?
I think no, it doesn't really make any difference. The one time I think it felt bad was when I won the 2012 500 and Scott was second. I actually felt for a fraction of a second afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, I felt for my friend, but then after that I recovered from that thought. Right, let's see what Mitch Evans has got here.
He has to get into the top 4 to have a realistic opportunity of winning the championship today. Here he is, coming down into turn 22 in the number 9 Jaguar. Through the right-hander, gets on the power. Van Dorn focused on his debrief, but we'll have a little glance up and watch the telly at points.
God, this is maybe the most important lap of the season. Yeah, he used a lot of curb, but did that stop and get back to the throttle? He missed the apex in 3. Bit messy so far.
Didn't look a lovely first few corners for Mitch Evans, but he comes into the chicane now.
This is scrappy. He's had a couple of goes at turning into turn 4 as well. It depends how much speed he's managed to float. Let's see, first sector coming up.
Let's see how far Evans is away from Jake Dennis in the first sector. Comes through it. Oh, he's almost 2 tenths down.
And he's hit the wall.
The first sector, maybe tapping the wall through the stadium section, really wrestling with it. Here, Mitch Evans. Now coming out into turn 16. Gets on the power. Everybody else is improving in the first sector as well. Evans is the slowest of anyone in sector 1 apart from Fenestraz. Evans is the slowest of anyone in sector 1 apart from Fenestraz. Middle sector, he's only 3.5 tenths away, so that's not too bad through the middle sector. A mega final sector, and he might be able to squeeze through here, Evans.
But all those guys going quicker, the Jack.
Still the slowest driver out there. Into the right-hander. He could get shuffled right back down the order. Evans comes across the line. Is it enough for the duels? It's second. A good final sector, but everybody else is on a lap. Dennis comes through, takes the checker flag. He's already quickest. Who's next across the line? It's Askew, gets ahead of Evans. Tictum gets ahead of Evans. Buemi doesn't. The DS to Cheetah's next. Da Costa does. Evans is out. Evans isn't through to the duels. Gunter gets it as well. Lotter into 9th place. Evans will start 13th or 14th on the grid in a race he has to win in order to stop Stoffel van Dorn winning the championship. And is that Jaguars' title hopes gone for the Kiwi. And 10 out of 10 for Dan Ticktum. Into the duels for the first time for the Neo team all season. Here's a look at Evans.
Simon hitting the wall, just watch on the exit. Oh, and I wonder, the way he hit that probably knocked the toe out of the, because he hit it instead of an angle, it wasn't a flat hit. And that would knock the toe out of the car, and then it's going to handle like a shopping cart after that.
We're just not good enough in these conditions, is what Evans said on the radio. And some swear words.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the car in a straight line, it looks like. Yeah.
Phil Charles was the man with his back to us. Christina Manias, the performance engineer of Evans' car. Nearest to us here is Josep Roca, his race engineer.
It's not over. The championship is not over. It's just a lot more difficult now for Mitch Evans.
Returning to the pit lane. And after the win yesterday, which was a really remarkable drive, but nothing today. Van Dorn getting ready to head out in the duels in a few moments' time. Evans will be on the 7th row of the grid.
That's right in that midfield scrum that just, in those first corners, those first part of the lap, anything can happen. It's so difficult to get through unscathed, just that first half lap when you qualify in that position.
The lowest place we've had a race win from this season was 9th on the grid for Mitch Evans in Rome. I think the record for the win from the furthest back on the grid is Lucas de Grassi, who won from 15th in Mexico City 2017. So it would need to be a almost record-equaling performance. And that came through pit stop strategy. It's tough for Evans. But we've got the rain coming later, potentially.
It's not over.
No.
Absolutely not.
It'll feel it for Evans?
No. I mean...
No? You think Evans is walking up here to get weighed, going, yeah, can still win this right now?
Nothing to lose. Yeah, you've got to have that mindset, but the rain actually looks like it's moving further away. If yeah, I mean, weather dependent. Obviously, if it does rain, it really opens things up even more.
So we are about to get going with the qualifying duels, but this is how Group B ended up. Dennis da Costa, Vern and Dan Ticktum making it through. Gunter, Askew, Evans, Verline, Lotterer, Bohemian, Fenestraz eliminated. So we will be getting underway with the duels in a couple of moments' time, but first of all, let's head down to the pit lane, check in with Nikki Shields.
James Barkley, team principal here at Jaguar TCS Racing. Obviously, that's not how you wanted qualifying to go for Mitch Evans.
No, we've got a bit of work ahead of us, but you know, it's a long day today, and that'll be our focus now. But yeah, it just didn't quite. I mean, I think we're probably potentially, you know, could have been in for P4 there. A little mistake in the first sector just kind of cost us. Mitch was good over the rest of the lap, but it's been tricky to kind of get the one-lap performance here. But yeah, the focus is the race. That's how the day finishes is what counts.
I know after the race yesterday he was saying that he wasn't, you know, really happy with the setup of the car, obviously, though he still won the race. Has that been a priority in practice session because he didn't get quite so much running as the rest?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, to be honest, you never really get the car perfect in the window in Formula. You've got to live with what you've got sometimes, especially on circuits that vary so much. But yeah, we haven't, fair to say, quite found that sweet spot. We got there in the end in free practice 3 this morning. We had some brake material issues this morning, which kind of, yeah, there's real inconsistency sometimes with the brake material, and that kind of lost us a bit of running properly early on. But we recovered well. But listen, this is Formula E. You never say never. Lots can happen from here, and that's our focus now for the race.
Exactly. Not over until that checkered flag is waved. Thanks very much. I'm sure Mitch Evans won't be going down without a fight.
We're just looking at some of the onboard there from Evans, and that was him hitting the wall, and from then on the steering was a little bit left hand down and bent as he came out of the stadium section and then through 15. And down the back straight. There's another look at it again, just whacking it with the left rear. But, I mean, the lap time had already sort of gone at that point, Dario.
Yeah, he didn't have the grip, did he, through turn 1 and 2? He jumped, he was a bit clumsy through 1, but then turns 2 and 3, he just didn't have the grip to get the car into the apex. Had a couple of bites at turn 4, but at that point, as a driver, you know, the grip's not there, the grip that you need, and it changes your rhythm a bit as well. And yeah, then he hits the wall, and it's just all, yeah, it's gone, by that point, it's all gone wrong.
Time for the duels. First up, Dan Ticktum against Eduardo Mortara, the Neo versus the Rocket Venturi. Then it'll be Jean-Eric Vergne versus Stoffel Vandoorne. Robin Freitz against Antonio Felix da Costa. And Lucas de Grassi, for the third race in a row, Lucas de Grassi versus Jake Dennis. It was the battle for pole in London. Then it was the semi-final yesterday, I think, was de Grassi versus Dennis. And then it's a quarter-final today, so they're getting further and further back down the ladder, those two meeting, as Evans makes his way back down towards the garage. So the first duel, the first quarter-final, about to get underway here in Seoul. Lovely sunny day so far, plenty of clouds around, plenty of weather around as well. But we're about to have the first duel. Dan Ticktum making his first duel appearance up against Eduardo Mortara for the Rocket Venturi team.
Hopefully I'll be making a duel at some point this season, but I think it's a really great spectacle for the fans and a great chance for us drivers to go head-to-head.
Qualifications are not different than the races. We have to handle the pressures in the best way we can.
Well, Dan Ticktum saying hopefully I'll make it at some point this season. He's chosen the last possible moment to make it, and that is the first Neo through to the duels this season. So that means that it's only Turvey. Oh, is it only Turvey? It's only Oliver Turvey that hasn't been in the duels this season. Let's see what Ticktum can do. I mean, this is a underdog story for Ticktum versus Mortara.
Yeah.
This is FA Cup third round stuff.
I was thinking David and Goliath, but yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. A phenomenal job. He's already won. Dan Ticktum's already won.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, he's done a phenomenal job to get this far. Mortara, again, championship implications for the Venturi team with the team's championship. He's got to make amends for yesterday, I would say.
Was 13th on the grid yesterday, Dan Ticktum, so he's had a bit of pace here this weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the British driver can do. And he's coming into turn 22 now to start his flying lap down in towards the first corner.
Now he's going to arrive at that first corner a lot quicker because he's got 30% more power in the dual stages of qualifying than they had in group. So yeah, all the way it puts the power down, the way the balance of the car is all completely different in these dual stages. Looking good so far.
Here comes Mortara starting his lap. Keep an eye on the tower on the left-hand side. This is a big race for the team's championship for Eduardo Mortara. And he's 400ths quicker than Ticktum through the first couple of corners. Ticktum now into the stadium.
Yeah, looking good through the stadium. You can hear the tyres working.
They're very close here, only 100th between them. Ticktum actually closing the gap a little bit. We'll get the first sector split for Mortara in a moment, and he's now managed to extend his gap to just over 1/10 of a second, coming into turn 13. Ticktum and the fast part of the track, down into 19.
I stood watching looking at the bumps back on Friday with Dan Ticktum. Let's see how brave he's going to be. He's got 3 tenths to make up into this next turn 20-21 section. Looking maybe over to the entry a wee bit.
Down in towards the final corner then. 3 tenths the gap at the moment. Oh, lock up. Still got it in just about. Ticktum actually closing the gap again to Eduardo Mortara. Comes across the line, 21.6 is the benchmark time. Mortara has been quick through 19 and 20. Now down into the final corner. He's neat and tidy. The gap is almost half a second. And Eduardo Mortara advances through to the semi-finals. So Ticktum doing a 21.611. And Mortara is into the semi-finals yet again. 2 pole positions so far this season. 7 quarter-final appearances, 6 semi-final appearances, and 5 final appearances for Mortara. In fact, yesterday was the first time he'd lost a quarter-final. But very happy team at Neo, I would imagine, guaranteeing themselves a place in the top 8. Jean-Eric Verne versus Stoffel Vandoorne. DS Techeetah versus Mercedes EQ. They've faced off before, and it's 1-1 in their personal own head-to-head competition. And I don't think it was a final either of those times. No, it wasn't. So here comes Jean-Eric Verne, and he will be the first driver on the circuit, and the winner of this will go through to face Eduardo Mortara. So that would be quite a big semi-final with Vandoorne versus Mortara. But of course, Vandoorne now, with Evans starting a long way down the order, a reasonable points finish would be enough for... he's going straight on, Verne. That's done.
Yeah.
Duel's over. Big mistake. Down at the first corner, Thomas Chevauchet watching, and I'm sure that Stoffel Vandoorne will be told that Verne made that error. We go on board with Vandoorne as he starts his lap.
Look, Vandoorne made almost the same mistake. It looks very low grip in turn 1 at the moment.
But the gap is a second between Vandoorne and Verne.
Yeah, but you don't want to knock yourself out of the rhythm too much. That's the problem. You start slowing down. It makes everything, the way the track appears before you, completely different. It's now 1.2 seconds.
Verne clunking the curbs, now coming into turn 16, fighting the car at the wheel, wasn't he? 1.4 seconds now, the gap, as he comes up towards 19. Vandoorne is in the stadium section, coming through 13. And the gap is 1.4 seconds at the moment. Extends a little bit more. We go on board with Vandoorne through the quick stuff.
See him through turn 18, any lift? A little bit, but obviously that's with that extra 13% of power that at 250 kilowatts.
Just love it.
It will feel a lot quicker.
Those two, that sequence might be one of my favourites in Formula E history. Across the line comes Verne, a 22.6 for Jean-Eric Verne.
Second slower than Dan Ticktum.
Yeah, correct. And we'll see what Stoffel Vandoorne can do. Through the turn 22, out across the line, books himself a place up against Eduardo Mortara in the semi-final, and with a 21.2.
Just fractionally slower than Mortara.
Yeah, correct.
Really fractionally.
Yeah.
Well, mate, we've made it through. 120%, 120% caution on the paddle, and clean tyres, clean tyres.
Evans out in the his driver area at the back in Jaguar, and
yeah, this is this bit you just want to be alone and there's a camera in your face.
Next up, quarterfinal 3, Robin Freins versus Antonio Felix da Costa. Freins 1-0 up in their own personal head-to-head battle so far this season. And these two, who were teammates at the Andretti team back in season 3, and got along very well as teammates as they come down towards the final couple of corners. Freins has been very up and down. This is the first time in the duels. It's only his second time in the duels in the last 7 races, whereas for the first 6 races he was in the duels every single time. So real drop-off for Freins and the Envision team, but a little bit more like it this time through, as da Costa comes out of the final corner, out across the line, down towards turn 1, Techeetah versus Envision, and we've got split screen.
Da Costa gets a bit further than Jean-Eric Verne did, his teammate. Again, I think da Costa missed the apex a little bit in turn 3.
He's 100th quicker than Freins through the first sector, through the first sequence of corners. Freins, though, gains now almost a 10th.
Yeah, just listen to the playing with the throttle not fully off, not really braking, just floating as much speed as possible. Is that close enough for you? 1100s?
Looks as though da Costa's gained a bit of ground in that stadium section. Now coming out into the left-hander of 16, and he has indeed a 10th of a second ahead now of Freins. through the quick stuff.
Oh, bit of oversteer from Da Costa. You see him turning left in the right-hander. Just to try and keep the car pointed as straight as possible.
He's now got over 2 tenths on Robin Freins. One more corner to go.
Yeah, one big braking zone. You've got to get this right.
Da Costa 2 tenths ahead of Freins at the moment. Again, the car moving about so much underneath Robin Freins, but this is going to be Da Costa first across the line. And he is through into the semi-finals at 20.9. So that lap from Freins is actually quicker than the drivers that advanced through, than Van Dorn and Mortara.
A tough duel.
So a 21.194 for Freins. That has him currently in 5th position on the grid. But one more duel to come. Lucas Di Grassi versus Jake Dennis for a place in the semi-final. 1 each. And both from the last 2 races. This is the 3rd race in a row where they've faced each other in the duels. And this one's a difficult one to call.
It is.
Dennis was flying in group qualifying.
Yeah, they're both on form, aren't they? I mean, the only possible thing you could say about Dennis right now, the car's going to handle it, we said a bit differently in the dual stages with that extra power. But he is, yeah, both these drivers absolutely driving so well right now.
Lucas Di Grassi. Has he got a bit of
tape on the left side, yeah, just flapping around.
Yeah.
Did he catch a bit of advertising, I wonder?
Interesting. Anyway, he's coming across the line now to start his flying lap. Di Grassi first on track. Dennis will be chasing him.
It's good through there.
Very neat and tidy from Di Grassi.
It always is with him, isn't he? He's got that lovely style. As has Jake Dennis, actually. Some are more ragged. The Robin Freins is always worth the price of admission because he's always over the limit.
Dennis through the first couple of corners, and Di Grassi is up, but only by 100th of a second. He was in a pretty chirpy mood this morning, Lucas Di Grassi, when I
wasn't he?
Had a little chat with him in the Venturi garage. He's now coming into 13, and he's managed to extend his advantage over Dennis to 500ths or so. Di Grassi out of the stadium, Dennis into the stadium. That was tremendous, wasn't it?
The height of the wall, they wouldn't have seen it, but Dennis up a 10th up now.
So Dennis has found some time. Di Grassi into 19. Now coming down to the final, to the penultimate corner at turn 20.
This double apex, tricky corner.
Still over a 10th of a second, Dennis's advantage over Di Grassi. But how is Dennis going to perform through the quick stuff? Onto the brakes at the final corner for the Brazilian. The gap grows a little more. It's over 2 tenths to Di Grassi. Di Grassi does 1 minute 21.2. And Dennis has now got over 3 tenths. Just needs a neat and tidy final corner. Big jump on the bump.
I haven't seen anybody hit that before.
No.
Back wheels right off the ground. Luckily, it was before the braking zone.
Dennis comes through and is into the semi-finals. Di Grassi does a 21.209, but it's Jake Dennis who advances through to the semi-finals again. Such good form at the moment, Jake Dennis. That is, what is that? Is that 3? Oh no, because he didn't make it through to the semis yesterday, did he? I thought he did, but he lost out.
I think Jake and the Avalanche Andretti guys, they've really improved the performance of the car. Watch the back of the car as he hits that right off the ground. And it looks like he was maybe a half of a foot over more to the right than normal. There you go. Let's go and see his chiropractor after that one. Oh, on board, here we go. Just listen. Ouch. And that noise you heard, that was right where Jake Dennis sits with the small of his back hitting the ground.
Roger Griffiths in there. David Beckman in there as well, the reserve driver for the Andretti team. As Dennis advances into the semi-finals. This is where we're at. Mortara beat Tictum, Van Dorn beat Verne, Da Costa beat Freins, Dennis beat Di Grassi. And those are the 4 drivers that will face off in the semi-finals. One Mercedes EQ powered car will be into the final, but which one will it be? the Mercedes or the Venturi. And they'll be up against either Dennis or Da Costa in the final and the battle for pole. So, Van Dorn versus Mortara. Next up in the duels. And the semi-finals will be coming up in about 5 minutes' time. Van Dorn already in the car, ready to go.
Which is saying something in this heat that he's getting in that early. Because it is hot and humid.
Yeah, it certainly is. 12 duels won this season for Stoffel Van Dorn. 10 lost. 6th time in the semi-finals. He's taken 7 poles, but that's over his career, not this season. Only 2 poles this season for Stoffel Van Dorn, whereas Eduardo Mortara has won 15 duels and lost just 5. Remarkable strike ratio for Mortara. 2 poles, both coming this season in Berlin. Before the semi-finals there's going to get underway, let's check in with Nicky.
Jean-Eric Verne, brilliant lap. Not quite making it through though. Talk us through it.
Not a brilliant lap at all. I locked up T1 and lost a second, so that was the end of it, but it's okay.
Trying to see the positive side of it. You're fighting for 3rd in the championship with Edo Mortara, just 8 points behind him. Do you think it's realistic?
Well, I mean, everything's possible, but you know, he's in front of me in qualifying, so it will most probably be very hard. Especially, it's quite difficult to overtake on this track, but you know, I'm gonna give it everything, and we'll see what happens.
Not going down with that fight. Thanks very much, Jean-Eric Verne.
So Verne eliminated, 8th on the grid.
New father, Jean-Eric Verne. Yeah, cool to see.
And the car's just being pushed back into the garages on the weighbridge. You see Freitz making his way down on the left-hand side. And he will be starting in 5th position. And this is on board with Antonio Felix da Costa, and this is the end of his fastest lap in the quarterfinals as he comes down now towards the right-hander and then down towards turn 22.
So the first of the semi-finals, Van Dorn Mortara, that's got team championship implications. Yeah. And that will not be lost on the drivers. See, Antonio Felix da Costa just a little bit wide there.
DS Techeetah are not really in the fight for the win. They are close to Venturi, but with the Venturis qualifying so well, I think it'll be tough for DS Techeetah to overhaul them, but wait and see.
You never know.
Exactly, that's the thing. You never know anything really in Formula E. That's my motto anyway.
It's catchy.
So a few minutes away from the semi-finals getting underway here in Seoul. The final race day of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship. The 8th season of the all-electric single-seater series. And the last race for Mercedes. Thank you to Mercedes is the message on Stoffel Van Dorn's helmet. The semi-finals getting underway in 2 minutes' time. Maserati joining next year. McLaren joining next year. And McLaren actually fundamentally taking over this Mercedes EQ team. So expect to see a lot of these, basically everyone but the drivers.
Yeah, I mean, both drivers leaving. Nissan powertrain in the McLaren, so will be interesting.
So Stephen Lane will be heading over there. I think Ian James is heading over to McLaren as well after a long time with Mercedes. I can't remember how long he said.
He's been there a long time. He was involved in the production car side of things for a long time.
And that's the De Vries side of the garage, so that's why they are mostly back in the debrief room already. As Van Dorn gets ready to pull out and onto the circuit. Right, this is where we're at. Semi-final time. Stoffel Van Dorn versus Eduardo Mortara. One Mercedes EQ powertrain will be through to the final. And then Jake Dennis versus Antonio Felix da Costa. One of those two will be into the final also. The battle for 3 World Championship points. First up though, it is going to be this really interesting quarter-final for the team's championship. Stoffel Vandoorne for Mercedes EQ, Eduardo Mortara for Rocket Venturi Racing. Vandoorne going for 2 titles.
I'm fast because I'm in the zone, I'm focused, and I'm talented. Being the one taking a little bit more risk than the others, and also the one doing the less mistakes.
Those are the 2 drivers then about to fight it out for a front row grid slot for the Seoul E-Prix later on this afternoon. Gets underway in 3.5 hours' time. Then Mortara will wait for 10 seconds and then be sent out onto the circuit. But it's big for if Mercedes EQ can win the title, it'll be back-to-back teams titles for Mercedes. If Venturi win it, it'll be their first ever Formula E championship in any form, drivers or teams.
And Venturi being the customer Mercedes EQ team, it's a customer powertrain. I think that shows that the way formally the regulations are done, it really helps the customer teams. It's not a massive disadvantage, and yeah, that's it's very unusual to see that. But I'm sure they're not thinking about that right now. Stoffel Vandoorne just
maybe Venturi are a little.
Yeah, just going to be easily on the tyres.
Taking it nice and steady. No prep laps here. It's just out lap and then push straight away in the semi-finals.
Yeah, and again, you see Edo Mortara doing the same thing, not putting any energy in the tyres because that heats up the tyre itself, brings the pressure up as well.
And both of these drivers were in qualifying Group A, so their tyres will be sort of similar conditions also. And Mortara was quicker than Vandoorne in the qualifying groups, wasn't he? And in the quarterfinals, Mortara was also quicker than Vandoorne. So
just
evidence suggests that Mortara is the favourite here, but barely by anything. Here we go then. Stoffel Vandoorne into turn 1, looking for his 3rd pole position of the season. In fact, so is Mortara. They're so evenly matched, these two. As Vandoorne swings it down towards turn 4, Mortara starts his lap now into the right-hander of turn 1. Little flick out from the rear as he then gets on the power. Who's it going to be the advantage? 600s up for Mortara after the first few corners.
Got to say the Mercedes turns in ever so well. Stoffel Vandoorne, but the advantage right now with Mortara, but now they're equal. Well, 1,000th of a second.
Wow, 1,000th between Vandoorne and Mortara. Through the stadium comes Vandoorne.
Oh, it was lovely from Vandoorne through there. Let's see if that pays dividends from him. He used the curb to help turn the car in turn 13.
600ths is the advantage now for Mortara, who's making his way out of the stadium. Into turn 16. Gap grows to just over a 10th.
Look how close Mortara gets to the walls.
Every time, it's just ridiculous. Paper close. Vandoorne down towards turn 22. Mortara's gap now is almost 0.2 of a second. This is a great lapping coming from Eduardo Mortara. Vandoorne into the final corner at 22. He's closed the gap a little bit. Comes across the line. The benchmark is a 21.0. But here comes Eduardo Mortara. The gap is almost 0.2. Is Mortara through to the final? He is. Mortara into the final. Great news for the Venturi team in their championship fight.
And that's the quickest lap we've seen in the duels today.
20.913. 7,000ths quicker than Da Costa managed. And for Vandoorne, a 21.069 is a very quick lap time, quicker than any of the losers in the quarterfinals. Semi-final number 2, Jake Dennis versus Antonio Felix Da Costa. Avalanche Andretti versus Diaz Techeetah. They have Dennis has the 1-0 lead in their own personal duels over the course of the season so far. And we'll see what happens on this occasion. A place on the front row of the grid awaits. Dennis was 5th on the grid yesterday and then went on to finish 4th. But very different weather conditions yesterday. Well, I say that, we don't know what the weather's going to be like when it does rain later on.
But at this point yesterday, it was raining heavily.
Yeah. On board with Costa.
he's not braking hard. He's not trying to get put temperature through the tyre. He's just trying to keep everything nice and cool to start this lap.
Mortara behind, just returning to the pit lane after the completion of his duel. There's Thomas Chevauchet, team principal of DS Techeetah, and Roger Griffiths, the team principal of Avalanche Andretti. Watch their drivers battle in the semi-finals. Dennis quicker through turns 1 to 3 by 0.06 of a second. Da Costa is the quicker of the two in their quarterfinals. Closes the gap in a little. Da Costa looks fractionally ahead, but only by 0.02 of a second. It's a really close one.
Absolutely right. No real mistakes from either driver so far.
Into the left-hander of 16. Da Costa extends again, but only by 0.04. This is so close.
And Dennis had a snap of oversteer through turn 16 on the exit.
Both right up to the wall, and Da Costa's building his advantage a little more. A 10th up now. Through turn 20, one more corner to go.
Good stuff from Da Costa, because Dennis is making no mistakes here.
Into the final corner at turn 22, Da Costa gets it hooked up. Drive towards the line, it's going to be a close one. But it's Da Costa. Da Costa is into the final to face Eduardo Mortara, a 1 minute 20.925.
Guess what? It's for you.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, super lap.
It really was. That was a cracking duel. Just no quarter given. Each driver won just over a 1/10 of a second between them.
The Jake Dennis car not making it through, but he will be third on the grid. His lap time was quicker than Stoffel Van Dorn's, so it'll be third on the grid for Jake Dennis, fourth for Stoffel Van Dorn. And if the race finished how it started, Van Dorn would win the championship. But we've got a long way to go. That's just where we will start. Van Dorn out of the car.
He's got himself up into those front rows where it's a bit more civilized at the start normally.
So Mortara through to the final. Again, that is his 6th final appearance of the season, the most of anyone. He doesn't have the best qualifying average of anyone this season. That actually is Da Costa's. But nobody has been on the front row of the grid more times this season than Eduardo Mortara. It'll be 6 times on the front row this year. The nearest is Dennis, actually, who's had 4 front rows. Van Dorn has had 4 front rows. Mortara hadn't had a pole position before this year, before Berlin, and then he took 2 in 2 days. So Mortara, Van Dorn, Da Costa and Dennis through to the semis, but Mortara beating Van Dorn and advancing through to the final. Da Costa beating Jake Dennis, and he will join the Italian-Swiss racer in the final and the battle for 3 points, which should be very useful for the Rocket Venturi team. Stoffel Van Dorn making his way back down to the garage. 5 minutes until the final gets underway, so let's check in with Nikki.
Well, Dan Ticktum, what a way to end the season, your first duels of this season. How was it? Enjoy it?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I think it's been a bit of a long time coming, to be honest. Our car over 1 lap in some other tracks this season has been good, but it's just about improving the drivability, i.e. like me being able to actually put a clean lap together, which we did this time. I think, you know, systems-wise and everything and how the car was set up mechanically was very good. I think that was pretty much the best I could have done. And yeah, I mean, getting into the duels at the end of the season, a bit late, but but yeah, it's still very positive for the team.
Great result. Can you bring some points home?
We'll see. The races are always pretty hectic. We have struggled a little bit with race pace, but if we nail our strategy and do everything we can today, then that's all we can do.
Absolutely. Well, good luck for the race. Thanks very much, Dan Ticktum.
Prior to this, 13th was his best qualifying result, Dan Ticktum, at the race yesterday in Seoul. Prior to that, it had been 14th in Monaco. So good stuff from Dan Ticktum. The conveyor belt continues with Nikki. Who's next?
Well, Robin Frine's last qualifying of the season, starting from a very respectable 5th position. Are you pleased with that?
Actually, very pleased with that, considering the issues we're having so far this weekend. Still brake issues, and I punctured a tire as well yesterday in FP2, so I lost one set for today. So I did a bit of a gamble that I drove with the hot set from where I ended with in quali. Still, the lap I was really happy with the lap, but put me P5, I think. So yeah, looking forward to a race now.
So what is the goal for today? Step on that podium?
Definitely a podium, but I'm hoping for rain, actually.
Interesting, to mix things up.
Exactly. I felt really good in the rain, so I'm praying for rain.
All right, great. I think you're probably about the only person. Thanks very much. If the rain does come, we can blame you, Robin Frines.
Took his first Formula E victory in the rain in Season 5, the first wet race in Formula E.
In Paris.
In Paris.
Remember how slippery it was down that one straight under the trees, just wheels spinning.
And Oliver Rowland obliterated Alexander Sims into the barriers.
That's right.
And so, actually, we were talking about that. I was talking about that the other day with Rowland, and he was saying, I wouldn't have been surprised if Sims got whiplash from that crash, because he'd spun him like 360 degrees or like 720 degrees before he even hit the barriers. Anyway, that was then. This is now. Final in a moment. There's a look at the Seoul E-Prix circuit here in the Jamshil Sports Complex. We've got the final coming up in a moment, Da Costa versus Mortara, and this is the fake final, let's call it, the semi-final run from Da Costa on the left and Eduardo Mortara on the right. Dario Franchitti.
Let's see if we can actually see any difference between them, because, oh, is it 12 hundredths of a second difference?
Yeah.
That might be quite difficult to see. Very similar lines so far. You notice there's not a lot of sideways action. They're keeping the cars as straight as they possibly can. Just working the steering, just kind of catching those small snaps of oversteer. The further they go around the lap, the more grip they're going to start losing as the tires start to overheat. Here they both go airborne through turn 15, not even a hint of lifting though. Then we're going to go through 16, 17, 18, see if either of them lifts. Not even thinking about it. Heavily on the brakes. The wall comes out to meet you out of 19.
If you'd have told me these were the same onboards on both sides, I'd have believed you.
Yeah, listen to the throttle application. They're almost identical. It's incredible.
Yeah.
See who breaks the latest into 22. Identical again, funnily enough. And there we go. This is going to be close.
That was just like, it's not like someone gained a bit there, then lost a bit here, or it was just...
Not like in the wet yesterday.
Yeah.
But if you're one of the drivers, you're thinking to yourself, where can I find, not like a couple of tenths, you're like, where can I find a couple of hundredths of a second here? This lap's gonna have to be perfection from both these drivers to get pole position.
So just the final to come here in qualifying, the final qualifying session for this new excellent duels format that Formula E have introduced this year. Mortara and Da Costa facing off in the final. Van Dorn and Dennis will be on the second row of the grid, but the battle for pole position is between Antonio Felix Da Costa for the DS Techeetah team and Eduardo Mortara for the Rocket Venturi Racing team. They've faced each other 3 times this season. Da Costa leads it 2-1.
So I put a lot of work, a lot of hours into these quali laps. It's a great feeling when we smash one out, so let's go.
I'm fast because I'm the one doing the least mistakes.
Simple as that. Antonio Felix Da Costa at the head of the queue, leaves the pit lane now and starts his duel in the final. He has had a pole position so far this season, Da Costa. He started from pole on 2 occasions. He took pole in Marrakesh and then inherited pole in New York City. But according to the statistics, my statistics, that is only counting as 1 pole position, even though he started from pole twice. So for those of you who are interested in that stuff, that's how it works.
He earned 1 pole, would that be the way to say it?
Yeah. He got points for one pole. He didn't get points for the other pole either. And they still went to Nick Cassidy, wasn't it, in New York City? But here we go. Da Costa out in front.
Just working, trying to get both drivers trying to get the tire temperatures into the window when they need it towards the end of the lap, getting the brakes working, getting the front and the rear into the window at the same time. That's one of the biggest challenges, actually.
If Da Costa takes pole, Evans will start 13th on the grid. If Mortara takes pole, Evans will start 14th on the grid, for whatever that's worth. Not much, but just a note.
That's going to make a difficult afternoon for Mitch, isn't it? Have to pull a heck of a race out of the bag to bring the World Championship to Jaguar TCS Racing.
But a pole position here for Mortara would mean that the 31-point lead that Mercedes EQ have at the top of the championship would come down to 28 points in the team's championship, which is it's a doable gap to overhaul. So
47 points available right now in the team's championship. It goes Da Costa on the brakes into one.
The DS Techeetah begins his flying lap.
Such a late turning into one. He gets really good response. You're not hearing the tyres chirping, so that's a good sign.
7 pole positions in his Formula E career, has only won one race. Da Costa not starting in first position on the grid, and there is only 100th between them. Oh, looks as though Da Costa was a little slidey entering the stadium. Mortara extends his gap to about 400ths of a second.
Like a bit of understeer through turn 10 for Da Costa.
Mortara's back end turning around. There's 4,000ths between them. It's as tight as it was in the fake final. Neat and tidy from Da Costa through 16.
Yeah, lovely there. Good balance of the car. Back end not stepping out.
Mortara through 16 as well. He had to fight it a little more.
Thousandths of a second.
It's come down by 3,000ths to just 1,000th between Da Costa and Mortara. What a fight this is for pole position. Da Costa through turn 19. We're on board with the Portuguese. It's a huge 200th now in Da Costa's advantage.
Last braking zone.
Gets it in, comes towards the line. He's got half a tenth on Mortara now. Sets the benchmark of a 21.078. Oh, Mortara's lost a couple of tenths in the penultimate corner. And so, across the line, it is the DS Techeetah of Antonio Felix Da Costa, who takes pole position for Seoul.
Yeah! Pole position!
Eighth pole of his Formula E career. Disappointment for Venturi, but still front row of the grid for Eduardo Mortara, and a chance to try and close in on Mercedes EQ in the team's championship. But a great lap from Da Costa.
Just no mistakes.
No.
Millimetre perfect. To do that, just with that pressure, he knew how small the advantage, how the difference was between him and Edo Mortara.
It'll be the third time this season that Da Costa will start from the front of the grid. The Portuguese driver, as Van Dorn does fist bumps in the garage. Da Costa has won one race this year. He finished. He won the second race in New York City. He finished second when he started on pole in Marrakesh. And DS Techeetah aren't far behind Venturi either for second in the team's championship. So that's another interesting fight, because the gap.
28 points now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're closer than they were, Jack.
That's a fact.
That is a fact, and again, I've said it before, the team's championship is the one that pays the prize money. You can see all the reaction in the Mercedes EQ garage. Just the fact that Mitch Evans didn't get those 3 points.
It's actually 13 points between Venturi and DS Techeetah, because the gap's come down there.
Right.
So it's 13 points now, DS Techeetah behind Venturi. Venturi are only 31 points behind Mercedes EQ. It's very, very tight up there.
Yeah.
Nigel Beresford on the left, James Rossiter on the right, in the sort of island workstation area.
Nigel Beresford, he's been there, seen it, done it, worked for Roger Penske for a long time in IndyCar. And he's a calming influence in that team, I would say.
Did you ever work with Nigel Baer?
I did not. I did not. I raced against Nigel's when some of the times he was at Penske. You see Da Costa standing on the scales. Got to tell how much he had for dinner last night. I bet he didn't have pepperoni pizza for dinner.
And so Da Costa on pole. We'll hear from him in a few moments' time. He will be on the front of the grid with Mortara alongside him. Dennis third, Van Dorn fourth. Freitz will be fifth. De Grassi will be sixth. Ticktum will be seventh. Jean-Eric Verne will be eighth. So that De Vries is quite a long way back, isn't he? He's going to be 12th on the grid, 12th or 13th on the grid for Nick De Vries. So it could all close in the championship. It could really sort of concertina up to the top of the standings as the teams get tucked into some lunch.
Back to work, no rest. You can tell when Stoffel's a little stressed or annoyed because he frowns.
There's going to be a lot of feeding. No, I don't think so. Rabbit food.
Rabbit food, says Van Dorn. That's due to the, I presume, the nutritional nature of what he's got to eat rather than the quality of the catering.
I imagine so. It's been not bad.
Yeah.
There's our pole position winner.
Told you. I told you.
Well, sounds like he was feeling confident going into this qualifying session, Da Costa.
Woo! Okay.
And it was a really strong lap to secure pole position.
There's multiple laps having to do that.
Well, that's what I love about this qualifying format, is you've got to do 5 good laps if you want to take pole.
Yeah, I love this qualifying format. It's been so good, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, 4 good
Hybrid's
laps
coming.
if you want to take pole.
Come on. You. I smelled it this morning. It's all in the eyes. You told me to look in the eyes. You saw me looking at it.
Check whatever that fist bump was on Instagram later. There's Chevauchet. Mr. Costa is basically making the trek to Nicky. That's where he's walking to at the moment.
And it's a long old walk.
Yeah.
The weighbridge is at the far end of pit lane. Nicky's at the other.
This is how the grid will line up for round 16, the final round of the season. Alexander Sims will be 22nd, Sasha Fenestraz 21st, Oliver Turvey 20th, Sebastian Buemi 19th. Pole sitter yesterday, Oliver Rowland only down in 18th on the grid. Very difficult day for the Porsches, 15th and 17th for Verline and Lotterer. Then you have Nick Cassidy back in 14th place. Mitch Evans, the championship fighter, could only manage 13th on the grid. Oliver Askew out qualifying. Nick De Vries into the top 10, and it's Sergio Sedecamera for the Dragon Penske Autosport team, who will just be behind Max Gunter. Jean-Eric Verne only 8th after making a mistake at turn 1. Dan Ticktum has his and Neo's best qualifying performance of the season with 7th place. Lucas de Grassi is 6th. Robin Freins very happy with 5th, but is hoping for rain. Stoffel Van Dorn, champion-elect, will start 4th on the grid. If he finishes there, he wins the title. Jake Dennis is 3rd on the grid for Avalanche Andretti. Eduardo Mortara is 2nd, and Da Costa is on pole. After a stellar lap, once again, from the season 6 Formula E champion. Not in the title fight this year for the drivers' standings, and not quite able to catch Mercedes EQ in the team's championship either, but 2nd is up for grabs.
Good one, mate.
Thank you so much.
Strong one.
I told you I smelled it.
Leo Thomas, the man in the glasses there with having the little hug.
One day less and I would have had another.
So great performance from Da Costa, he's on pole. So Antonio Felix Da Costa will start on pole position in exactly 3 hours' time. Make sure you come and join us for the season finale of the Formula E World Championship. And as you can see, Da Costa elated with that
and we will hear from the pole sitter. Another pole position for the DS Techeetah driver. He's with Nicky.
8th career pole position at the 100th Formula E race. What a way to do it.
I don't know. I seem to always get along with these milestones. Like, I won the first ever race for Gen 2. Now I'm on pole for the last one. I don't know. Things just come together. But nah, honestly, we had some struggles yesterday, and we did some out-of-the-box changes for today, and I'm glad it worked out with the team. You know, we told ourselves last night we didn't want to come here today and just, you know, fill the grid. We wanted to change something, take some risks to try and close the year on a good note. And at the moment, it's looking good. Obviously now, 40 laps of racing ahead of us. That's the hard bit. So yeah, we'll see.
And a fairly competitive grid behind you as well. Obviously, you can see how much it means to you and the team going and enjoying some celebrations with them on the way.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through a lot together lately. Obviously, the last 3 years, did a championship together, some remarkable wins like Monaco, and yeah, it's an emotional day for us today.
Well, another one for the trophy cabinet, Marco Peroni, to present you with the Julius Baer Pole Position trophy. Huge congratulations to Antonio Felix da Costa.
So da Costa on pole, 3 points as well, which closes him in a little bit on his teammate Jean-Eric Verne and on Lucas Di Grassi, who's in 5th place in the drivers' standings. But it's da Costa who will start at the front for DS Techeetah. See whether he can convert it into the race victory. An interesting point there that he said, he bookending pole positions in the Gen 2 car. Some pole position in Diriyah in the first ever Gen 2 car race at the start of season 5 when he was in a BMW.
I think they did pretty much extract the maximum performance out of the car, and I'm pretty happy and pretty pleased of, you know, for the sessions. So let's see now in the race. Hopefully we can have finally a good result. Ciao.
There we go.
Amazing.
Don't need to send him to Nicky now, do we? now that he's done the social media stuff. But we will hear from him in a while.
Well, not so much, no?
In the first 2 sectors, yeah, super close.
So, Eduardo Mortara.
So, Ian James, as far as the championship goes, that was a very successful qualifying session. Does that mean that there's been more Moët Chandon added to the fridge for later?
Not yet.
Ooh,
Not
okay.
yet. No. We'll keep that very much on ice until we actually know it's done. But no, that was a really strong performance from Stoffel, especially to get that P4. I think that's crucial in his fight and also the team's fight as well. So all to play for.
So you look quite calm, but I've just had a look at your watch and it says stressed.
It also tells me that my fitness age is 20, so it definitely it lies. It lies.
Oh, I've got one of those that lies to me too. How many changes were made overnight from yesterday? Because it was a decent day.
A lot of changes on Nick's car after the crash, I can tell you that. So yeah, there's a huge amount of work that went on there. So credit to the mechanics for getting that turned around so quickly. In terms of setup, I think we learned a lot yesterday, especially on the tyres, and just making sure that we had those in the right window. I think that was probably the most important thing. And it's always that second day on these double headers where if you get that learning in and analyse the data, it puts you on in a good position for the next day.
So I guess as team manager, team principal, you are the equivalent of a football manager. So we've done qualifying. Let's say it's half-time. You're going into the sheds now and you're going to have a chat with the team. What is that conversation going to be like?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
Just a glass of Ribena and then move on.
It's one of those things. It's, you know, we've said that we're going to approach this weekend as any other, and that goes for the team chats. There's been no additional chats. There's everybody here knows what they need to do.
But that, in a way, Ian, that kind of summarises your team. Very calm throughout the season and very consistent. And your management seems to have worked very well, hence the extra champagne on order, I would imagine.
No, I think
Vernon wants a glass of champagne.
I know,
can you tell? Can you tell, Dario?
Definitely pushing for it. Listen, we've got a phenomenal group of people, and that learning curve that we've had over the last 3 years has been incredibly steep, but they're in a great position, and yeah, very proud of them up until this point, but we still need to make sure that we get that job done.
I'm just going to show you the semi-final run. Take a look. If he can replicate this during the race, then Mitch hasn't got a chance, surely.
I don't know. I mean, it's you can tell Stoffel. I mean, you mentioned it just now in terms of consistency. I think he's been consistent all season. He's just in a great place as well. Just himself mentally, you know, as a driver, and I think that's been the key this year. He's just been able, when it matters, to pull it out of the bag and perform.
Yeah, he does look like he's on form, doesn't he? Can I give us an idea of the feeling? You put all the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together, and then in about 3 hours' time, the race is going to happen. What's that feeling like when you sort of hand the reins over to the drivers and the engineers?
I'm not sure what comes after stressed on the watch. I think it's sort of reached a limit, but it's, yeah, the anxiety.
Sit down, I think it is.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Today we came in and there's a different feeling in the team. I think, you know, yesterday it felt a little bit, yeah, not as joined up as sometimes we can be. Today, much calmer, much more together, which is great. But of course, the anxiety levels start to build as you get closer and closer to the race, and then, yeah, at the end of the day, it's in their hands at that point. I do nothing, and that's for good reason. And yeah, you just wait and see it unfold.
But also, as Mercedes EQ exit the championship, what a great way to close the door behind you, walking out with the trophy.
It's not done yet. It's a long way from being done. I think
I'm just trying to get you to say, yes, we're really looking forward to it.
You'll never see it.
I have to be so careful here. Listen,
Yeah.
we're all as...
No one likes a custard pie, do they?
We're all as superstitious as each other around here. And I think that, you know, this is, and we keep saying it time and time again, and I'm sorry if I'm boring, but this is Formula E, and we're here in Seoul, and despite the fact that we've got the sun out now, I don't trust it. There's, you know, always that threat of thunderstorms around here. That could play a huge role. We saw what happened with the crash yesterday. Nobody really expected that to be quite as significant as it was. So, you know, until it's done, until that checkered flag's fallen, I'm not going to take anything for granted.
All right, fair enough. Just 2 extra glasses then for me and Dario.
There you go. Yeah, we'll arrange that.
All
Yeah,
the
no
best.
problem. Thank you very much indeed. Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
And it's been a privilege and a real honour having the Mercedes EQ team in Formula E. In fact, let's go over to Nikki, who's with the man literally in the hot seat.
Qualifying is always key, but especially when you're championship leader, Stoffel Vandoorne. Starting from P4, what do you make of that?
I think it was a decent session for me, to be honest. You know, we had pace in practice, so I knew I could kind of convert that into a good result. But it's so tight out there, so close, and managed to get through the quarterfinals. Didn't quite manage to beat Edo on one lap in the semis, but I think we're P4 or something on the grid. So yeah, it's still a good starting position, and I can have a good race from there.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, I'm sure you were going for pole position, but does it really matter when Mitch Evans is right back down there in P13, 14?
Well, I was kind of hoping I could go for pole position because, you know, in some way, you know, the pressure was a little bit on Mitch to, you know, to make it into the duels and then to qualify the car on pole. So yeah, as soon as I knew he wasn't there, I could kind of focus on myself and just execute some good laps. But you know, I was just missing a little bit.
Well, thanks very much, Stoffel Vandoorne. Good luck for the race.
Never seems stressed, never seems pressured. He's been like that throughout the whole season. I guess looking back, oh well, I'll tell you what. Let's forget the chat about our championship leader. Let's talk about the man who's put the car on pole position.
On board earlier.
It's terrible, wasn't it? Wasn't it terrible?
Okay, that's not what
yes.
not to do.
So Dario went out in the Gen
like
2 car.
Live on here.
Yeah, Antonio.
The older I get, the faster I was.
There you go.
Yeah. The key word was. You're still fast. You just proved it again.
How was it?
It was all right, man. Look, I think yesterday we struggled a little bit with some technical things in the car. It's not really setup. It's like things that if you want to change them, like parts in the car, it's a bit risky. We decided to do that for this morning, and then we kind of ended up merging what we had today with what we had yesterday, so a little bit risky, and it worked out. I felt super good in the car now, and obviously when you're able to bang lap after lap after lap, it's any driver's dream, you know, to be in that spot.
That is what impressed us, Jack and I, watching the most consistent.
Yeah.
It's
you know, it's not easy for me to go into that stage of confidence, and obviously I need the car to give me that confidence, and obviously I had it today. Such a competitive field, so you need to have an edge like that to try and to be on pole, and yeah.
Antonio, obviously you and Dario have done a lot of racing collectively. For us who haven't, and for us who watch from the outside admiring your driving craft, Just explain to us what the feeling is between a good car and a bad car. Just explain the feeling for you. Like, is it through your feet, your hands? Is it mental? What do you mean by that?
I think a little bit of everything. Honestly, for me as a driver, it's the first thing is braking. If you cannot brake, there's no way the corner is going to come out the way you want it.
Right.
So, and especially here on city tracks, street tracks, it's super hard to have that confidence. Yeah,
you were thousandths of a second up. Look at you go.
Only.
Well, that was at that point.
Only. It felt a lot
There's
quick.
only a corner to go. It was tight. But yeah, and then obviously once the braking's right, everything else comes to you. So that's what we focused on last night, and we were able to make it work.
Okay. And what about today, the race? What have you changed? What are you feeling?
I just realized that I was on pole and won the first ever race for Gen 2, and today is the last ever race for Gen 2. So we're on pole. Let's see if we win it. I think that the guys behind, they have a little bit of a better racecraft, but I think a lot can happen. Tricky tracks, safety cars, the weather. So we're in the best position we could be to try and win it, and that's the goal.
Do you want it to rain?
No.
No, oh, that was clear.
I love driving in the wet, but not today.
and from your perspective, from your team's perspective as well, obviously the championship's nothing to do with you, is it?
I think we can still clinch second in the
No, but I mean,
you're 13 points back now.
I mean,
behind
the
Venturi.
Stoffel and the Mitch battle. Exactly. There you go. That's the perfect answer.
No, man, I don't want to get involved, obviously, and let the best guy win. I think Mitch needs a little bit of a miracle today, but we've seen him pull a few this year. So we'll see how it plays out, but let the best one win.
All right, good man. And yeah, congratulations on another Formula E season, and congratulations on pole position.
Thanks guys. Good to have you with us.
All right, we'll give you that. Then as you walk away, we're going to talk about you.
Yeah.
So, go on.
Good things or bad?
Always good.
It will
always
be good. This occasion, it'll be good.
Always good. One of the main characters of Formula E, always got something to say, always bringing the personality. And another guy who you could say is the complete flip side of that, someone who's totally focused, is with Nicky right now.
Eddie Mortara, so close there. I think there was about 1,000th of a second between you at one point, and then the third sector, Da Costa just got the better of you.
Yeah, we seem to struggle quite a lot with the tires, especially in the last sector. Yeah, that final round was extremely difficult. For me, I tried to extract the maximum performance out of the car. There was nothing really so much more in it, but anyway, congrats to him, to Antonio, and now there's a long race, to go, and hopefully we can have a good one.
And the fight's very much on, just 13 points between the two teams in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to do my best, and then we will see at the end who comes in front. It's going to be interesting for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Enjoy the last race of the season, Eduardo Mortara.
Dario, two completely contrasting characters. We've just chatted to Antonio, and then we just see Edo with Nicky there.
Yeah, but when it's all on the line, they do the same job, don't they? As one of my friends said to me years ago, a guy I competed with, we're the same, you just disguise it better than I do.
Well, listen, we've stepped into the shade because it's absolutely sweltering now. The sun has come out of the clouds, the wind has dropped a little, it's hot. What are the implications of that?
Hot, humid, the tyres are going to go off quicker, the cars are going to start sliding around more. When you're trying to regenerate energy into the battery as the race goes on, that's going to be a problem because the batteries are going to start to overheat, and all these things are going to be considered in the race strategy this afternoon, and then it might also rain, and that will really just throw a big old curveball in there.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's the season finale. Make sure you join us a little bit later on. All right, Stoffel is in front of Mitch on the grid, but we know how Mitch can perform from way back. He's a phenomenal driver. He's got a great car. It's still all to play for. We are clutching to that thread that we're going to have a really exciting season finale. Dario, we are in the depths of anticipation, and we'll see you later for the race.
All 5 lights are on, and we go green in Seoul.
Crash ahead, be careful.
Push to attack this lap, push to attack this lap.